Sorry about that, babe.
Alright guys, welcome back to another Bits and Glory unboxing. This time we're taking a look at Secret of Mana as well as the official Game Secrets strategy guide. This is complete in box other than any random inserts to my knowledge. Box is in overall good shape, very sleek design, which I love. Definitely one of the better boxes in my collection too. Happy about that for sure. Let's take a look at the back here. Good and evil battle for a young warrior's heart. There is one force in the universe that keeps good and evil in perfect balance. It is called the Tree of Mana, but a magic sword has tricked a young warrior into upsetting this balance, spreading evil throughout the land. Thus, the warrior must undertake a dangerous journey to find the seeds of the Mana Tree, which have been hidden for centuries. Only then can perfect harmony be restored. In this incredible adventure, things are not as they seem. Magic swords release evil as well as fight it. Treasure chests hold booby traps. Monsters are friends and friends are enemies. Potions give power, black magic takes it away, dragons fly, weapons change. It's a world turned upside down that you must help the warrior make right, and the only way to succeed is to solve the Secret of Mana. As you can see, it is a multiplayer adapter game. Some cool screenshots there. I apologize for having to read too fast. Doing the voiceover post-mortem. Doing the best I can. Taking a look at the contents now of the game. Cartridge itself is in pretty good shape. The original battery backup is still present and working. I played through, obviously my playthrough, with this cartridge on my analog Super NT. Pretty clean overall, nice label. Some minor scuffs here and there, but nothing crazy. Can't complain about that. And now we're going to take a look at the instruction manual and the poster, which was hanging up on my wall as you saw me pointing away. I took it down just for this, guys, but after this was over, I put it back up in a frame on my wall. Manual, it's a little rough on the cover, but the insides are pretty good, so. Let's take a look at the poster here, which also doubles as a map. Poster's pretty cool. The heroes of Secret of Mana standing at the foot of the Mana Tree. Very legendary artwork. If anybody grew up in the SNES era and or loves RPGs. And that's exactly why it's being displayed on my wall. However, on the flip side is a very cool map. I actually didn't use this during my playthrough because again it was on my wall, but I did use one that was scanned on the internet. It's actually very useful because when you get the surfaces of Flammy and you start flying around the world, the land of Mana if you will, some things can get a little tricky, so it's always good to have some labels and direction for you. Taking a look at the instruction manual, it's fairly standard, I guess, for the SNES era. You have a nice little story here, a little backstory leading you in, and I really like these things. They almost look like they're made out of clay. Flammy, or the Mana Beast, or whatever that is, looks like it's sort of like felt, but the characters of the game look like they're made out of clay. It's very unique, very iconic. And as you could probably expect, this manual serves also as a partial strategy guide. The beginning, pretty much, doing the same stuff where they're going over the control layouts, the HUDs, how to save your game, load a game, blah, 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 all that kind of good stuff. And then about midway through, they start going into a little bit more in-depth detail regarding magic and stuff. There you can see the ring commands, which first started in Secret of Mana and then eventually went on to Secret of Evermore as well. It's a very big part of the game with the menuing, so get used to it, and if you have trouble, besides practice, I guess read this manual. And there you can see me pointing to the background, which is one of the worst things about the game, actually. The background colors of like the dialogue boxes are terrible. I believe that somebody made a ROM hack that improves that. There's actually no solid color. Everything has a pattern. It's very difficult to read. It's very jarring when you first play the game. When you get used to it, you get used to it, but I wish they changed it in the actual game. But yeah, as I was saying, the further you go along in the manual, once you bust out of here, you're going to be really getting some good breakdowns of weapons and armors and spells and stuff, which I referenced quite frequently during my playthrough, because magic is very important in this game. So it was always good to kind of double check before you waste your MP, see what you're working with, if you should be leveling it up appropriately and whatnot. Here we have general battle strategies, which can come in handy. Although, for the most part, guys, most of the bosses you're just going to want to spam whatever spell they're weak to, if I'm being honest. It's very similar to Secret of Evermore in that fact as well, where it kind of felt like maybe a third of the way through the game I was just spamming magic the whole time. Here you see various friends and services. Probably the most interesting thing here are the trader cats, which appear They appear randomly, but they're not actually random. You know what I mean? They just appear in random spots. You got your various modes of travel early on. It's all cannon travel until you get Flammy, the Mana Beast, and you're able to fly around using mode 7, which is pretty cool. Going over various obstacles that will be in your way that you'll either have to kind of like step on, smash, bounce on, so on and so forth to proceed in your journey. Special actions performed by certain things that allow you to progress further. The Flammy Drum calls Flammy, you know, the sword, whip, and axe all have sort of like, I guess, platforming elements to them, chopping things in the scenery. The whip will vault you across some areas and whatnot. Here you have the 3 heroes. The hero, the sprite, and the girl. You can name them as you please. And here we're getting into the magic. The sprite magic is the one you're going to be primarily using the most. It's basically mostly offensive, where the girl's magic is more of the buffing variety and healing. The girl does have a few magical attacks, but for the most part the sprite is going to be the one doing all the heavy lifting with the magic. Here's some really cool artwork regarding the weapons in the game. Kind of reminds me of the Dragon Warrior guides now that I'm looking at it, but moving on, we have the items that you'll be using. Early on in the game, you'll be like really relying on candy and chocolate and fairy walnuts and stuff to replenish you. The barrel, I never used that at all actually during my playthrough, but I guess it grants you invincibility for a little while. Here you have a breakdown of the armor, which is pretty cool because there's lots of armor to be purchased and found. Some of it's very expensive, by the way, so you can kind of decide whether or not it's worth grinding for the gold. And we get into the Traveler's Log, as I mentioned, typical of this era. It's basically just a walkthrough from the beginning of the game up until a certain point, and then they kind of leave you on your own. But it's pretty cool, it definitely gets you started. I would say, looking briefly at this, when I was doing my recording, you know, I was struggling whether or not I was going to do a Let's Play or a long play, and then I ended up just recording most of the footage just for my reviews and stuff. I think this walks me up until about 6 or 7 parts, possibly. Might have been maybe 5, but I think it was around 6 or 7. I can't quite remember, so for me it was about 6 or 7 hours of gameplay roughly, including some grinding in there, of course. And here we have a call out to the strategy guide, which we will also be taking a look at in a little bit. And a little misleading, it talks about the full color details and all that kind of stuff. Yes, there is a full color section to the strategy guide, but it's really not the meat of it. As you'll see, the meat of the official game secret guide here, featuring tips and hints directly from Squaresoft, and it's apparently the one and only guide, which I believe to be true, at least in English. And there you see them promoting the full color maps. They do have it, but you'll see right now, the majority of the strategy guide, unfortunately, is in black and white. It's a little bit of a bummer for this era. I will say, though, it is very detailed. You have in-depth boss strategies. You have a lot of maps of areas. And the way it's written is interesting. I've seen this happen before as well with other games. They write it as if it's like a story. So instead of being like talking to you and giving you direct, you know, strategies, it's kind of like the boy used this, the sprite used this spell and found things to be easy. It's pretty cool, I guess, for a change of pace, but I typically prefer the other way. Throughout you will see cool artwork and whatnot. And now we'll get to the color section. The color section primarily is a boss/bestiary. Doesn't cover absolutely everything, but enough to help you along the way. And then you'll get some nice color maps of various sections of the game. Here is the Grand Palace, which is towards the end. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, this is a big spoiler page here, guys. Sorry if you haven't played the game yet. That's it for the color stuff. Again, you know, not the end of the world, but you kind of expect things of this era to be very eye-opening and, you know, color-popping and eye-catching and all those kinds of adjectives. And also, as you can see here, fortunately, not in the best of shape. It's in good shape, but somebody must have spilled something on it. There's a nice picture of the mana tree. I bought this off eBay. It was like super duper cheap, probably because somebody spilled something on it. You know what? I was still able to read it, so it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, guys, that's Secret of Mana on the SNES. Really, really great game. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Stay tuned for my review. If you like this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next What's in the Box episode. Take care.